And okay, you know how they say practice make perfect? Ah, here we go. So, as I was saying, practice makes perfect. This is my third attempt at recording this podcast today. And I must say, the spirit of determination is deeply rooted in me. The spirit of determination. Nonetheless, we're here. This is Ask LELE podcast. I rebranded from Talk Tuesdays. The original ideation behind Talk Tuesdays was just to talk, which is cool because I think it's very therapeutic to vent in some spaces, but I'm beyond this space of talking. I really want to spend a lot of time researching or learning more about the things that I'm discussing to be able to share them in a more informed way. I also hope to be able to connect with some of the practitioners I follow, because I think it will allow listeners, or the listeners that are going to listen, to be able to really get a deeper understanding of the things that I'm sharing from the perspective of someone that is studying it and practicing it full time. So I adopt and adapt all of these modalities because I'm like a lifelong learner, as they say. When they say that, I know that's me. That's the line I should stand up in, because I'm always looking for new ways to an old thing. And I stumble upon these things in passing, but once I learn about them, they're so much more visible to me in the world. So it's like when you get a new car, or at least when I get a car, that's my first time seeing a car when I choose it. But when I'm on the road, I'll see the car a multitude of times because now it's been brought to my awareness. So I really believe that about everything in life. So I wanted to be able to bring these things to you so you'll be able to unpack them and see them in your life, and hopefully you'll be able to utilize them now that you're aware of them, or now that you're more aware of them. I'm sure that you may have stumbled upon them before. Today I would like to focus on alternative forms of medicine. I'm a huge supporter, believer, researcher of alternative forms of medicine, and I kind of stumbled upon them upon a health setback that I had, and I felt like I didn't know what was going on with me, and I didn't really have any support system established to be able to communicate upon my behalf. So more than feeling disregarded, I felt like I needed help, but I didn't know how to communicate that I needed help. So I found this new doctor. It's a long story. I'm gonna get a short version. I found this new doctor. She's cool. She mentions something that freaks me out. She's like, "Oh, let me see this." Like I stretch a certain way. She's like, "Oh, maybe you'll have this, but everything else is this." And she's just casually discussing all these things. And I'm like, "No, but I want to see specialists to confirm." So I go to a cardiologist and neurologist. She approves it. But at the same time, like I know that I didn't have the best insurance, best meaning expensive insurance. I had like a local state Medicaid type plan. So because I have that type of insurance, you basically get the checkup. Like, are your eyes and ears working? Like, that's it. I don't think you really get investigated on any deeper. But I went to the cardiologist and I explained what was going on. Thankfully, the assistant to the cardiologist was a person of ethnicity, and she listened to me. And somebody listening to you is very, very important, especially if you're experiencing something for the first time and you don't know what's going on. She listened, she offered support, she did like a scan of my heart, passed me on to the doctor. He was like, "You're okay, eat good, walk more," simple shit like that. But I wanted more of an intense response. But I did appreciate being seen by like the doctor's assistant, like being seen, like her actually listening to me and really understanding that what I was experiencing was something real. Beyond that, when I got to the neurologist, I had not a Zoom visit, but like a tele visit. And during that visit, the neurologist was like, "Well, what's wrong?" And in hindsight, I wish I would have lied and said, "Oh, I was in a car accident." So then she would have actually tested my brain. But I felt very uncomfortable with my brain after my setback. But I don't know, to this day, I don't know the terminology that you communicate when you see a neurologist, because traditional medicine is based upon you going to the doctor when you have a problem. So when you have a heart attack, you go to the heart doctor, or when you have something associated with it, then you go check out your heart, not prior to. And I find that so odd, so wrong. So I kind of was constantly like looking for help. So I would use the directory. So I get better insurance from this gig I had, this job I had. And I'm like searching through the directory of doctors, and I come upon an acupuncturist, and I just like their description. When I go and see the acupuncturist, he talks to me like to inform me what's going to go on during the visit, but also to find out what was going on with me. At the time, I was commuting for work. So I was like living in New York and commuting to Pennsylvania. So I'm commuting to Pennsylvania for work, and I'm just like in a survivalist mindset. Like I just need like a job. So I'm like waking up at 3, leaving out to the later part of 3, like 3:50. Maybe I'm leaving out to catch like an Amtrak at 4:20 to get me to Pennsylvania by late 5, early 6 a.m. to start a job at 7, and then leave the job like 2:30. Catch a train at around, maybe my train was at 3. If I could take the Amtrak back, if I could afford to take the Amtrak back, if I couldn't, I would go the cheaper way, which is to take the Pennsylvania transit system to New Jersey, and then to take the New Jersey transit to New York. And then that commute was like 3 hours. So if I'm leaving work at 2, I was like getting back to the city by 5, then getting home by 6:30. And I had probably a concrete 4-5 hours where I was absolutely asleep before being back up at 3 to leap back out. And I was like just running my body that way. So I just had little ailments like my ankles and my legs and swelling, but all of these things were leading to the answers to it was me. It was the way that I was living my life. But at the time, I didn't really see any way outside of that. So I was like doing these things. So the doctor just asked me like, why are you doing that? And I really didn't have a reason. So that was like a eye-opening, but a awe moment for me to really make better decisions for myself. But even before he asked that question, he started to examine like, well, what's your nutrition like? So I'm telling him all the things that I don't eat, because that's a longer list than the things that I do eat. And he's telling me, you have to replace them. So my initial interest with having a clean diet is just to feel clean. I don't want to eat and feel heavy. So I'm a big Trader Joe's, organic, whatever, light food. And he's telling me, you got to replace them. So then he introduces me to supplements and vitamins in a very thorough way, shares website information with me, give me these thorough definitions. We talk probably an hour before I get the acupuncture. And I thought that I could leave the office and just go about the rest of my day. It's not the case. I tried to with all my will, but I was so relaxed that I actually had to go home to rest. And after that experience, I had to be honest with myself to say, am I going to keep living my life to run my body ragged just because I know how to bring it back to life with acupuncture? So basically told myself, don't do that. Stop working that job and really get back to your truth. And this is like a full circle moment, because around this time last year, that's who I was. I was like commuting for over a job that I was overqualified for. But at the time, it just felt like a safe idea, but I was really killing myself in the process of it. So long story short, after getting acupuncture, it took me a while to adapt the supplements to my life. By the time I adapt the supplements to my life, it completely changes the span of my day, as far as like me being tired or just like how I move in general. So now I'm like an avid taker of the supplements. I can't really go a day without them, because I don't want my body to go without them and then we have to adapt it back to using the supplements. But long story short, it completely changed my life to have an honest conversation with the doctor, as opposed to going in and getting the glance over on the surface and them not really doing anything further. Beyond acupuncturist, there was just a conference, I believe I shared this for the last episode, called Conscious Life Conference, where maybe minimum it starts off with like 2 hosts of the conference, but it leads to maybe 40 to 50 different practitioners in specific specialities. So maybe they might study trauma, or they might study the nervous system, or whatever they're studying. That's all that practitioner does full time, and they're sharing the information with you. So that conference was just such a leeway into meeting different practitioners, and I'll share the link to that conference and the information. But that's also a way to adapt alternative forms of medicine into your lifestyle, even if it's like Ayurvedic healing and you're adapting those modalities. That's an alternative. That's not something that's like considered traditional at all. It's very specific. So that's another alternative form of medicine. that I've been exploring, just studying and learning from practitioners to adapt it to my lifestyle. Oh, the biggest alternative I've been learning about recently is cycle syncing. I started reading this book called In the Flo, and the author is just compiling data and research on women to explain why the woman's internal clock is completely different from the male's internal clock, which is what society, especially productivity, lifestyles, and jobs are basically being created by people who are males. So they really don't consider the cycle system of a woman. So if you can sync your cycle, just studying your own cycle, your phases, and what's going on, you could really prime your schedule and your life to be most productive for you. But this is also a new thing to me that I'm adapting, and I'm completely fascinated by. As I'm reading the book, I'm just taking notes and making sure that I'm applying it to what's going on with me. But that's also an alternative. I know when I go to a basic OBGYN visit, the doctor's not thoroughly discussing my menstrual. I think they just ask when is the last day of it. And even that questioning, you have to look deeper into cycle syncing to find out what your days mean, because your cycle is not just the menstruation part. It's like a whole, like 4 different phases that your body's going through, which you could prime your life around to be most beneficial for you. But even that, I consider that an alternative form of medicine, like really knowing yourself and learning yourself. And so far, I only shared 3 alternatives, and I'll share them. I'll list them with links in the description for this podcast. But even with those 3, I've significantly changed my life by myself. Like taking supplements, but informed supplements, not just a cool supplement like, hey, this is a powder for something. No, a supplement from a website that's explaining what this does, what it entails, what it contains, how many milligrams, like very informed dosage of supplements, in addition to very informed information that I can apply to my life. So this has completely changed my ability to live my life because I'm able to be honest with myself. So prior to me taking this route, I wasn't able to be honest with myself because I was so deep in survivalism. Like, I just gotta do this, I gotta do this, I gotta do it. I didn't even have a reason to do it, but I did have a reason because I was making money. But besides that, me making decisions against myself, that's like deeply rooted in other things that I'm learning from practitioners, like how to unlearn things that I've learned for years. So it's just been such a very fascinating to me to learn these things, but I'm learning them from strangers. I'm not learning them in conversational spaces. So anytime I learn it, I love coming back to it to share it. So if you've never heard of these before, if you find it interesting, please like hashtag Ask Lele or ask me more so I can unpack it more, so I can share the information with you more, so we together can build and like learn. Because the ultimate goal of this project for me is to share information. That's the ultimate goal, to share information. So please subscribe, like, rate it, hate it, so I can use the demographic information to figure out how to tell her the message better to who I'm sending the information to. So thank you so much for listening. I'll be back next Tuesday to drop another Ask Lele podcast, and this is episode 3 for this season. So we have 5 more to go. There'll be 8 episodes for this total season. So please listen and replay and share it and replay and replay and re-like and hashtag Ask Lele, so I could unpack more episodes and in the future connect with some practitioners so we could together unpack some of the threads that I'm sharing. Okay.